Hi there, I'm Andrew, this is Poppy, and behind us is the Škoda Kamiq Monte Carlo. And over the past few months, we've had plenty of time and lots of kilometers to get to know each other. So if you have one of these on your consideration list, I reckon I can tell you a few things you really ought to know about it. In fact, I'll tell you the 3 things I like and the 3 things I don't about this small SUV, and I'll give you my overall verdict too. So feel free to stick around as we get up close and personal with the Škoda Kamiq Monte Carlo. But if you are in a hurry and you're watching this on YouTube, you can skip ahead to any one of those sections just by clicking on the chapter list below or by using the timestamps. And while you're in a clicking mood, make sure you hit subscribe so you stay on top of all of our latest videos. And for the full review on this and for thousands of other cars, head on over to the carsguide.com.au website. All clear? Good, let's get started. But first, I'll just pack away this precious cargo. Right, so just what is a Kamiq and where does this Monte Carlo fit into the discussion? The Škoda Kamiq is the brand's small SUV and a premium feeling answer to vehicles like the Hyundai Kona, the Mitsubishi ASX and the MG ZS. You can have it with an 85 TSI engine, which will set you back around 28 grand drive away with a manual gearbox or 30 grand drive away with an automatic. But the vehicle you see here is the Kamiq 110 TSI Monte Carlo, finished in moon white, and it'll set you back around 37 grand drive away. It's called Monte Carlo as a nod to Škoda's history in Monaco's famed rally, dating back to 1936, as you can see by the racing flag insignia. But it's less a sportier trim these days and more of a premium offering with a high level of comfort and standard kit. That said though, this Monte Carlo does get sports chassis control and the ability to select a sportier drive mode, and it will deliver you more power, upping the engine to a turbocharged 1.5 litre petrol and the grunt to a usable 110 kilowatts and 250 newton meters. The 85 TSI uses a 1 litre engine that delivers 85 kilowatts and 200 newton meters, which leads me neatly to my very first like. A lot of vehicles in this segment can feel a little anemic behind the wheel, like they're built for A to B transport and driver fun and engagement be damned, but not so the Kamiq. And a lot of that has to do with the clever little engine under the bonnet, which makes a very usable 250 newton meters. And I know that doesn't sound like heaps on paper, but in practice, it really is plenty. I've had this car for a number of months now and been on everything from urban roads to country roads to freeways, and never once has it felt underdone or underpowered. And it's not just the power, but the fact that it makes it from a pretty low 1500 RPM, and the way this 7-speed DSG is always really quick to pick a lower cog. What that means in practice is that when you go to overtake someone, for example, and you plant your foot, there's always enough power there to do exactly what you need to do. So what else do I like? Let me pull over up here and show you. Now, sensible is not a word that marketing types like to apply to vehicles often, but why not? I mean, excitement is fine, but when you're really living with a car, what's most important is that it does what you want it to do and carries what you need it to carry whenever you need it to. And the Škoda Kamiq does do that. That story starts here at the boot, which opens to reveal a very usable 400 litres of space with the rear seats in place, which is more than enough room for a suitcase and a corgi and pretty much anything else we've needed to lug about over the past few months. Now, dropping the rear seats, we'll see that number grow to around 1400 litres, which really is a big and usable space. But does prioritising boot space mean they've sacrificed back seat space? No. Let me show you. So these seats are set to about my 175 centimetre driving position, and as you can see, I've got legroom and headroom to spare, and this huge glass roof really does make it feel bright and airy in the cabin. So big boot, big back seat, and a pretty practical small SUV. The thing that really struck me about the Kamiq the first time I climbed into it was the sense of premiumness, the sense of quality at almost every touch point. The doors are satisfyingly solid, the steering wheel feels thick and luxurious, the tech's totally on point, especially with the options ticked, and the driving experience is really engaging. This does not feel like a cheap and tinny small SUV, not at all. Now, a premium feel does often mean a premium price tag, and although that's not entirely the case here, there's no doubting that the Kamiq Monte Carlo is at the pricier end of the small SUV segment. Now, that said, you do get some good stuff at the Monte Carlo trim, like the 18-inch black alloy wheels, the roof rails, adaptive LED headlights, and that sportier chassis setup and those driving modes. But you can spend more if you want to, and they have done on this very car. This Monte Carlo has been fitted with the $4,300 travel pack, which adds the awesome 9.2-inch screen with navigation, automatic parking assist, blind spot detection, rear cross traffic alert, a better stereo, heated seats in the front and rear, and flappy paddles on the steering wheel, as well as wireless Apple CarPlay, which can remember 2 different phones. Now that and the metallic paint lift the Kamiq's RRP to a harder to swallow $39,040. Now with all of that said, you are getting a lot of car for your money. There's only a couple of things I haven't liked from behind the wheel of the car, and the first one is that the tech, while fabulous when working properly, and usually it is, has proven a little glitchy in places. The wireless Apple CarPlay, for example, has dropped out on a couple of occasions. At one point, some of the safety systems said they weren't able to be activated, and on a freeway, the active cruise control simply wouldn't work. Now, all of those problems were fixed by simply pulling over, restarting the car, and kind of resetting the system, but they were enough to vex me at the time. Now, of course, if I properly owned this car, if it was actually mine, I would have taken it back to a Skoda dealership, and I'm sure a software reset would solve those issues. But in a car where I haven't had that many things annoy me, it's worth mentioning. Now, the other thing that has vexed me a little bit behind the wheel is that smooth starts do take a little bit of practice. Now, I haven't quite figured out yet whether it's the stop-start system, which is a little bit obtrusive, or just the way the power is delivered really quickly, really low in the rev range as that turbo spools up and kicks in. But it does mean that when you're first setting off, you do need to be really gentle with the throttle. Otherwise, if you're heading uphill, you get a little bit of wheel spin, but otherwise you just get a fairly jerky start to proceedings. Now, you do get used to it, and I've found leaving the gearbox in its normal mode rather than its sports setting, and just being really consciously gentle with the throttle does alleviate those issues, but it does take a bit of getting used to. To be honest, the likes far outweigh the dislikes for the Skoda Kamiq, and if you can spring for the Monte Carlo and then spring a little bit more for the tech upgrades, you'll find yourself with a whole lot of car and a whole lot of space for your money.